We've heard from Jonathan Bell about how Birmingham 2020 really grew out of the friendship between Jonathan and Neil Powell. And Tim, I guess in some ways God has used our friendship to grow the Northern Gospel Project. As we got to know each other through the Planters Collective, it became apparent there were differences between our two churches, between CCM and City Church. What are some of those differences that you think you've seen?
Well, the T-shirts, obviously.
I made him wear that T-shirt. He was totally against it.
I still resent it. So I think we would describe ourselves as a multi-site church. So we would, perhaps the have-a-go mentality that we talk about and starting smaller is the first obvious difference to me.
Yep. And so we're both committed to church planting, but church planting in quite a different way. Like you say, you're going small, have a go, responding to where there's kind of opportunities, openings. City Church would do things slightly more slowly, but go to different places, send in different teams. What is it, though, that binds us together? Why are we good mates?
Well, that's a good question, Ralph, isn't it? Well, I think we both see our city, we both love our city, we both realise that actually we need lots of churches across Manchester in areas that are very hard to reach. And I know for us, for CCM, we could go at this for the next 30 years with the way that we do things and not even get close, like Jonathan was talking about today. So I think that sense of actually we can be friends, we can go at these things a different way and add other people in who have different other ways of doing things as well. That feels very important to us.
Yeah, I agree. I think if I spend lots of time with people who are just like me, from the same theological tribe, same denomination, I don't tend to learn that much that's new. Whereas spending time with people from different tribes, different denominations, just learn new things, see new insights that I wouldn't otherwise have gained.
It's true, you have learned a lot from me, it's true.
That is basically what I'm saying. I'm demonstrating humility, and you're demonstrating hubris. So,
hubris.
There we go, complementarity.
I've got that nailed.
I think another thing that I've seen in common between our churches, and between the churches who are already bought in to the Northern Gospel Project, is that gospel generosity that's been described by Jonathan. The gospel teaches us to hold things lightly, to be willing to give away, to be willing to share, and to know it's not all about us. And I think that's one of the things that I've loved to see at CCM. It's not just about you. You want to work in collaboration with other churches, and that's what we long to do at City Church. And I guess our city needs it, doesn't it? What are the stats on our city, Tim?
Well, we think that perhaps less than 1% go to church in Greater Manchester, in that kind of area of nearly 3 million people. The numbers actually are really very small. Yesterday, there was a gentleman here called Neil Powell, and he talked about how London actually has gone through secularisation and now is seeing an increase in church membership, actually quite a significant increase. But would say that is one of the only cities that has gone through that process, actually now seeing an uptick. And we're not seeing that in Manchester, so it's important for us to do that. So, for example, if we planted 60 new churches over the next few years, actually, that wouldn't keep up. We need to keep up with the pace of population growth, which is why we're talking about planting or trying to facilitate 30 plants in the next 7-8 years or so.
Yeah, that's the vision. 30 new churches in Greater Manchester through the Northern Gospel Project by 2030, within the next 8 years. That's pretty quickly. But we've already got lots of churches working with us. I guess in this room we've got people from, I think, 7 or 8 different churches, and we want to see that grow and grow. And really what we're seeking to do is around three main activities. Training, funding, and care. So tell us about training.
Training. Okay, so we've got the broadcast church planting training, which you saw Tom talking about. So we started that at CCM a few years ago, really with the idea of wanting to get good quality training into people quite easily. So we do Zoom calls. We used to do Google Hangouts back in the ancient past. But really so that planters who are often bivocational, working very hard, can get easy access to training. So our website now is a series of different training courses, but also do stuff cross-culturally as well in that. So we have that as well. Then there's Plant North, which you guys have run out of City Church here, which I know a number of people have been on and found to be very helpful, as well as the incubator that we saw in the video too.
Yeah, and it's important to say that the training is not just about training lead planters, senior pastors, is about training you guys as well. So we want to be putting on training days for people who are thinking of going to church plants and being the church plant treasurer. Okay, that is one of the most thankless jobs in church planting, and yet one of the most necessary jobs in church planting. We've got workshops happening later today, in just a moment, in fact. And there's going to be one on leading worship in a church plant setting. We want to be training you for how to use your creative gifts in a church plant setting. That's going to be one of the afternoon workshops. We want to be training you for how to be the lead on welcome, how to welcome in new people to your churches, how to do hospitality well, how to think outside the box. We want to be training you guys for the role that God would have you play in a church plant. It's not just about training of the kind of paid Christian workers. Next up is funding. We've heard a bit about that. I'll share about this and then you can come back to care. So funding, we're looking to set up a seed fund. We have so far raised £27,000 and the aim by 2030 is to raise a whopping £300,000. Okay, my calculation is if we do that, we can fund 2 church plants a year forever. And that's massive, isn't it? Imagine 2 church plants a year being funded in Greater Manchester as one of our activities. We're really hopeful that we will get to that 300,000, but it will need us to be moved to generosity. We've heard that really passionately explained by Femi earlier on. We need to give and give big to that, and the money is coming in, and praise God for that.
Very good. What do you want me to say?
Can you say something about care now?
Oh, care, there
Thanks.
you go. You said my bit about funding, so I got lost. It's all very good. Ralph actually wrote the script for me. Then he went off script. So what did you do in that moment?
That's what this is all about. Collaboration, not conflict.
Yeah, so we need to care for me, clearly. But actually, we want to look after planters. It can be pretty lonely. So actually, when we started CCM and we decided to go multi-site, one of the reasons to plant in that way actually is because planting is a lonely thing. So we started the Planters Collective, where a number of us come together and really we talk about life, what it's like to plant a church, family, things that are going well, things that are difficult. We do a bit of praying together and we do a bit of training. And it's very simple actually, coming together once a month. We would like to start more of those over the city as well. And also we have these hives that Ralph has talked about, support groups for people who take different roles in church plants, whether it's like the worship leading or other ways that we can support people on core teams of plants too.
So here we are. We're at the start. This is the launch conference. But really, Tim and my friendship, it doesn't make that much difference. What really makes a difference is how you guys are going to take this forwards as we move on. Is the friendship that Tim and I have, is that going to grow into a friendship between members of all our different churches? Because we are absolutely convinced of 2 things. Church planting is for every Christian, and we can do more together than we can do on our own. So I want you to use this day not just to learn new things, but to build new friendships. Not just to think, oh, that's great, and that's for someone else, but to think, yes, that's great, and that is what God is calling me to do right here, right now, in this city.